Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, major season continues, and we've been thrilled over the weekend with the adventures at Aronimink Golf Course in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually watched a reasonable amount of it over the weekend, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was I wasn't quite sure after the first couple of rounds, but certainly by the end, I thought it was just a really good event, really, and obviously a very good result as well.
There's a lot to unpack out of it. I think, without a spoiler, I'm assuming that anyone that's listening to this is probably aware of the result. But I think that watching Aaron Rai come down the stretch with Jon Rahm trying to chase him down, a little bit of the bomber and the short gamer, I thought, was the jewel that was going on there.
That was certainly my thoughts. I mean, some of those drives that Rahm hit, I mean, what were they, 385 yards and something ridiculous like that. Like, it was just
it.
Yeah. And it's pretty good for a bloke who only takes half a swing.
I know. Imagine if he actually got some flexibility. I mean, I know he does have some physical issues, particularly with his leg. But absolutely. But the thing is, it's the tempo is spot on. He's still got that 3-to-1 ratio that the Tour Tempo app would like you to have, but it's quick. Yeah. And it's obviously delivers a lot of power at impact. Impressive stuff to watch. But before we get to that, there's probably a few talking points that we want to go through tonight, Andy Walker, to unpack this event. I guess, what do we need to talk about? We need to talk about the venue, I think.
Yeah. I think that's one. I mean, Aronimink is a bit of a different venue, I think, to what has been dished up in recent times. And I thought it just brought everyone in together and all the players a lot closer than what, say, last year when Scottie Scheffler won by streets, and it was really just the Bombers who had a chance of winning. So, I think the venue was a big one.
Interesting to that point, there was, and there has been in the lead up to this tournament, a lot of conversation about whether or not Aronimink is a major venue. And I know, listening to some of the post-round press coverage from some of the players, Bryson obviously had strong views, which you can probably have strong views when you miss the cut and you start putting off the front of the green from behind the green, which we'll come back to that. But Rory also made a few statements sort of in the early rounds about the fact that he thought that the overly bunched leaderboard was a representation of a golf course that didn't allow the better players to separate themselves from the field. And I thought that was an interesting viewpoint, Andy Walker.
It doesn't allow the Bombers, the really long hitters of the golf ball who normally thrive on the PGA Tour. It didn't allow those guys to get in front of the game. I agree with Rory in regards to that. However, what it did do, it allowed the guys who actually play good golf shots off the tee to be able to thrive, and those who didn't struggled. And I think, given Rory is one of those guys that hits it a very, very long way, it didn't, while he did well, it didn't necessarily suit his game that well.
Yeah, obviously true. Mind you, he still did post a good number by the end of the tournament, and, wasn't too far away for over the weekend. He just really, cost himself any real chance, I think, on day one, where he shot, 75 or something like that on day one. But at the same time, I think you're right. Like that, it seemed like it was a golf course that punished errant play.
Yeah.
And it also seemed like a golf course that was gettable if you really controlled your ball around the course. And we saw that on the last day with, Aaron Rahm finishing. When he finished 4 under on the last 9, and in fact with an eagle on 9, you would say it was 6 under in the last 10 holes. Like that's an incredible finish. And
on that golf course, with as difficult as what it was, when you literally rolled 10 centimeters off the fairway, and you've got incredibly bad lies, to shoot 6 under over the last 10. I mean, that's striping it. Like that's some good ball striking right there.
So, I think it's not rewarding distance so much, but it is rewarding accuracy. And I can't help but think that that's exactly what so many fans of the game have been calling out for a long time.
Well, it's not just accuracy, it's strategy, right?
True,
because there was a lot of players that were taking fairways off the tee. I mean, Scottie Scheffler did it multiple times. I saw Ludwig Oberg.
Easy for you to say.
multiple times. Always struggle with him. But yeah, and I mean, Aaron Ryan, not necessarily because he doesn't hit it as far as what those other guys do, but there was a lot of strategy involved, and I think that's really been missing in a lot of especially the PGA Tour. Not, there are events in other parts of the world where strategy is a lot more prevalent, but in the US specifically, it's very, very much bomb and gouge, and that's been the core setup for quite a number of years, and that's what's been rewarded on the PGA Tour. So it's good to. And I said at the start, I think it's a really, a bit of a breath of fresh air that other types of golfers get a chance to actually compete, because every single golfer has their strengths and weaknesses, and you see that in other sports as well. While there is a lot of power in a lot of other sports, like you take cricket, your old sport. There's you don't necessarily especially in the 2020s, the guys who are powerful are the ones who headlines. But you've also got other guys who, can do just as well, bringing strategy and, a bit of craftiness into their game, and they can score just as many runs as what the big hitters do.
For sure. I mean, look at Steve Smith, one of Australia, one of the world's finest batsmen. And certainly he's not the most powerful going around, but he's crafty. Some people may say that he's a bit too crafty at times. That's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But you're right. No, and I think, look, it was an interesting variation, because it's not necessarily the sort of golf that we see that often. And I also think that it brings into question, the need for the golf ball rollback. We've had this conversation a number of times. Obviously, Sasha McKenzie has pointed out that ultimately the people that are going to be hurt the most by the rollback are going to be the shorter hitters, and Brian Harman was the example that he'd used. But I'd say probably someone like Aaron Rahm would potentially be impacted by it, because he's not a big hitter, and so if that makes it more and more difficult for him to keep up, because he doesn't necessarily have that extra speed to go to that a Cam Young or a Rory McIlroy might have. Does that have an unintended consequence for someone like him? A golf course like this shows that there's other defences other than distance. And also, as we talked last week, Cam Young's already playing with a rolled back golf ball, and he's not doing too bad when it comes to distance. So really,
exactly, what's
the point?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. It's a very, very good point, and I know that we talked to Sasha a couple of years back, and that was his perspective, and there's commentary, and you hear it quite often, that in the next sort of 5 years, in the next 10 years, there are just about all the college golfers coming out of the US college system. They've got 130, 135 miles an hour swing speeds, and they're going to be hitting an absolute mile. So if you think sort of today's golf, hit it a long way, well, they're all going to be hitting it probably another 10, 20 yards on what they're hitting it today. So it's not going away. So I think that what happened with and the way Aronimink was set up. Now I've always said that I believe 5 to 10 under is where the sweet spot for a major championship.
Well,
and
we saw that.
We saw exactly that. So 9 under won, and obviously won by a few. 6 under, there was a couple of 6 unders, and then sort of 5s and 4s. I think that was really well set up to a golf course that didn't have the length defenses that, say, I mentioned the PGA Championship last year at Quail Hollow. It didn't have that outright brute strength that a place like Quail Hollow has. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't set it up where it doesn't have defenses, and you put rough in and especially really, really long rough like we saw at Aronimink, you're in the right places. People are going to struggle, even with wedges. They're going to struggle when you've got really hard and fast greens coming out of 2, 3, 4 inch rough. It's going to be tough for them.
Absolutely. I have to admit, I was personally probably feeling a little bit critical of the layout on the first couple of days. And I think looking at it, saying things like the greens are just so tricked up that it becomes a bit of potluck, and it doesn't necessarily lead to the better golfer winning the tournament, but more so he who gets luckiest on the greens. I kind of feel like I changed my mind a little bit over Saturday and Sunday. And
100%.
I don't know if that's because, and it might be a combination of these things. I don't know if it's because maybe some of the pin placements became less extreme, or if it was because some of the players actually got to manage the greens a little bit better than they had on the opening rounds because they played it a few times and learned a few lessons. I'd say there's potential truth in both of those statements.
Yeah. Well, I think certainly round 2, not necessarily so much round 1, but round 2, there were some comments that came out of round 2, and I watched a little bit of round 2, and some of those pin placements that were put at the top of ridges and on slopes where, if you're playing it just as a normal, say, Saturday comp as a member, you would hope that they're not going to put pin placement in those places. I mean, we saw a little bit of that out at Duntry League,
which you were a huge fan of, as I recall.
Yeah, so it becomes unfair, and you're right, it's a bit of pot luck rather than skill. Whereas I think that over the last 2 rounds, I think maybe the PGA went, all right, well, maybe we've tricked it up a little bit too much and we didn't quite get it right. Let's put the pins in, not necessarily easy positions. You don't want that, but certainly not the types of positions that they're in for, specifically around 2.
I think good pins are ones that are hard to get to, but where, good lag putts can still get you quite close. Not ones, and I think we saw a little bit of that on, you're right, probably day 2 more so than day 1, where lag putting became really difficult on a few of those holes where, people would lag it up quite close, but then the ball would just continue and keep going. And that, to me, is verging on unfair, rather than just difficult, but making it difficult to get at, particularly if you're trying to bomb the ball up close to the green and then you're coming in with a, sort of a flick wedge with not a lot of spin. So you're almost better off being back where you can play a full pitching wedge or something like that into the green. I think that's kind of good, interesting course design that forces some decision making. But I felt, as I say, I felt like I warmed to the layout afterwards. You asked me the question before we hit record about were my views similar to my views on Oakmont. No, they're not. They're actually not. And I think I actually would really want to play Aronimink. I think it'd be a fun challenge. I thought Oakmont just looked like a punish.
Yeah. And it was.
I know. And the weather didn't help, let's be honest. So,
yeah.
So I think Aronimink could be, would be quite cool to actually play.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I agree with everything that you've just said in relation to pin placements, how the green should play. I like accuracy and playing to a target. And if you can get that right, especially with your irons, if you can hit it to the right part of the green where you've got, whether it be an uphill putt or a relatively easy putt, rather than missing it in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
I think you should be rewarded for that. I don't think there should be a penalty for that by tricking up the greens.
Yeah, no, totally. Not a great show if we keep agreeing with each other all the time. It's not how it's meant to work.
That's true.
It's not how it's meant to work.
I'm sure there are some things that I've got on my list that we're going to disagree with, but
yeah.
Let's crack on.
No, fair enough. I think the other funny thing about it is that, and I don't recall this happening in majors beforehand. Maybe it has, but the eventual winner was given away, to be perfectly honest, by the name of the golf course at the beginning. They both have the same name, Aaron.
Ah, yes. I actually hadn't picked that up, but you're right.
Yeah. Aaron Rye and Aronimink. So there you go.
It was meant to be.
Pilgrims, far out. That's terrible. Sorry about that. Anyway, what next? Where do you want to go next, Andy Walker? We've addressed the layout.
Look, I think some of the individual performances are quite interesting. I mean, of note, I look at the live golfers, for instance, and I think they're...
Because you love live so much. I know, it's well documented.
There needs to be a little bit of analysis around live. I think that, the obvious ones, Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed, who have now moved away from live and are on their way back to, Brooks Koepka is on the PGA Tour, whereas Patrick Reed sort of going via the DP World Tour. I think them coming back into tournament golf has done their major prospects the world of good.
Agree.
I certainly think that when Brooks Koepka gets his putting together, because he's putting just horrifically at the moment. I understand how that feels, Brooks.
We've all been there, buddy.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
As soon as he gets his putting together, he's going to win more majors. There's no doubt about that.
His ball striking was elite.
Yes. Yeah. And it always has been. He's always been up there, and especially in those conditions, those major conditions where he seems to rise above, where he is week to week on the PGA Tour. He's always been that way, and for whatever reason, he's just got that mentality where he can go to the next level for those major championships. So I've always been a fan of Brooks Koepka's ball striking. I think it's absolutely elite, whereas he just needs to get that putting back to where it was when he was winning the US Opens and PGAs, and he'll definitely win more, and he's only a couple of majors away from a career Grand Slam, so that's definitely on the table for him.
So what's he left with? So he's won
the Open and the Masters.
Yeah.
And he's been close to the Masters. He's been really close. I think he could get it done at the Masters, pretty comfortably. And there's no reason why he couldn't transfer his game across to the UK and to Scotland and to win an Open Championship. I mean, he played over in Europe for many years and cut his teeth over there before coming back to the PGA Tour. So he knows the conditions.
Yeah.
So I think potentially, I mean, it's odds on that Scottie Scheffler is going to be the next career Grand Slam winner. I mean, he's only got the US Open to go, and potentially that could be in a month.
Could say
but I certainly think that Brooks Koepka is likely. I would put him slightly ahead of Rambo for getting the career Grand Slam. I think Rambo's definitely in the mix for the career Grand Slam, but I think Brooks Koepka will make that charge and get there before Rambo. So that's my big prediction.
Wow. Will they beat Jordan Spieth?
I think Jordan Spieth has not a lot of hope at all.
He didn't look likely. That's true. Yeah. Look, Brooks is an interesting call. I think I do agree. Like he really had started to look ragged with his game on the Live Tour. I'd be guessing he was not particularly happy in the last
he
year or
didn't
two.
look happy. Yeah, he did not look a happy camper.
Yeah, and I think that, being able to get out when his contract came up, I don't think there was much chance that he was renewing at that point. And I totally agree. He's certainly turned a corner. There's no doubting that. Other Live players interesting to talk about is Bryson. I think we have to talk Bryson. And similarly to the conversations previously we'd had about Brooks, all is not well in the world of Bryson DeChambeau at the moment.
No. And yeah, I think Bryson brings a lot to the game. He brings a lot of eyes to the game. And I think that I think he's probably, and he's talked about coming back to the PGA Tour, and they talked a lot about this in the lead up. I know Paul McGinley and Brandel Chambly talked a bit about this in the lead up to the PGA Tour, PGA Championship, in that they believe that Bryson wants to be invited back rather than pleading his case to come back. Bryson wants the PGA Tour to go, oh, we want you back, Bryson, come back, please come back, whereas they're not going to do that. So that seems to me, and this is where Brooks Koepka, and credit to him, he swallowed his ego a little bit and gone, you know what, no, this is best for me and my golf and the legacy they want to achieve with golf. Whereas I think Bryson is still playing in that ego cloud and wanting to go, no, it's all about me, and, you need me more than I need you.
We're back to Ed Sheeran. But couldn't let it go. I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked that you are referring to Bryson as being someone that's caught up with ego. That's just astonishing. I did hear similar comments out of Brandel Chambly and Paul McGinley. I guess all I would say is that's not necessarily a balanced view that you're going to get from those guys, or a non-biased view.
I don't know. I mean, Brandel Chambly is so biased towards, the US and US players and the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
That for him to go rogue against Bryson DeChambeau, I think that actually says something as to where Bryson is at the moment.
No, I think Brandel's got an axe to grind with anyone that had anything to do with Liv, and that includes Bryson. And anyway, look, it may or may not be true. I believe absolutely that for him to come back, he would need to be, asked to return like the prodigal son, 100%. Even if that happened, though, whether or not he would go back to the PGA Tour, I think that's an interesting question, or whether or not he, wants to, as he claims, dub his YouTube videos into a variety of languages and spread the game around the world. Time will tell as to which of those is true. I think to be honest with you, I think if he goes down the path of just focusing as a YouTube golfer, he can probably kiss his days of competitiveness in major tournaments goodbye. I just don't see...
100%.
I don't see that doing multi-take rounds of golf is the best preparation for a major.
Definitely not.
But anyway... What would I know? I can't even get my preparation right for a seniors tournament in regional New South Wales. So I'm definitely not an expert. But yeah, look, on that list, we'll get to Rambo, of course, because, he did find himself the highest up the leaderboard of all of the Live players. But another one I think
I do want to mention, because I briefly mentioned Patrick Reed. And I think Patrick Reed... and I'm not a massive fan of Patrick Reed, surprisingly enough, but I think he will win another major.
Don't say that.
Would not surprise me. He can play, man. Like I watched him over in Dubai, and when he had a couple of wins over there, and he just shot the house down, man. Like, he can play. So I think give him enough time, give him another couple of years, he will win another major. I've got no doubt about that.
Give me strength. Look, I don't disagree that the guy's got an incredible short game. He really does. Like, his chipping, pitching, and putting is next level. His counting, however, is maybe not up to the same standard. And I don't know. Do I dislike Patrick Reed as much now as I used to? Probably not, but that might also because I haven't watched him play as much golf as what I used to. So
yeah,
my jury's out on that one, but he's definitely not one that I'm going to be rooting for on game day. I'll tell you that much.
No, definitely not. But look, he's there's got to be a villain in every story, right? And
I feel like that's a conversation we may have had during the Masters.
Exactly. So he fits that profile, and
he
isn't
does.
bothered by it at all.
No, he's not. So he's really not.
So good luck to him.
He and Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally happy to be the villain.
Yeah.
Just bring it on. I'll wear black every day, get a big curly moustache. Maybe not that far, but, they're happy to do it. Wow. Okay. Another one for you, Andy Walker, that I think deserves a commentary is Cam Smith, our man from Queensland.
And as shocked as I am, that Cam Smith actually did well. I mean, what's he missed in the last 6 cuts in a row?
I know.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I don't know.
And where's it been for the last? And I get there's a transition period after his performance in the Players, and then going on to win the Open Championship. What was that? 2022 was it, or 23? He did that.
Yeah, good question.
It's been a few years now, but yeah, I think it's been a bit of a transition period for him, and then he's jumped to live pretty much straight after his Open victory. I think Cam Smith he's had a couple of years where he's just really enjoyed himself and not been too bothered about,
haircuts.
Not haircuts. I think he still wants to win, but I think it took a lot of that pressure off him to actually come up with a major victory. Whereas now I think there's been enough time where he's sort of gone, all right, well, what does my future look like? I've got all these millions in the bank, tens of millions, probably 100. What did he get paid? 150 million, I think he got paid. Was 140 million, something like that.
It was a lot.
So, yeah, I think he's now at a stage where he's probably going, all right, well, I've got this exemption from the Open that now I need to actually start playing decently to keep qualifying for the majors. And what he does in regards to, if Liv implodes, like it seems to sort of be going down that line, where he ends up and what he ends up playing on, I'm not sure. But it's just, for me, it's just really good to see him, as unexpected as what it was, to play well and be up there in contention in a major championship.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think he found his putting stroke again, which had been letting him down actually a little bit. And he was keeping the ball in play a lot more. Got away from him a little bit on the final 9, where he was scrambling quite a bit for pars, but still making some amazing up and downs. But it just became a little bit too much to do. But agree, it was good to see.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've got we're going to talk about the strokes gained across the various players. That's not what the strokes gained says about his game.
Interesting.
So strokes gained for Cam. So putting, yes, plus 1.11. Not at the top, but certainly a long way from the bottom. Strokes gained around the green was plus 0.69. Strokes gained approach plus 1.45. Strokes gained off the tee minus 0.88. And strokes gained in total tee to green plus 1.26. So strokes gained approach was where he really hit his straps, and then with his putting coming in second. So off the tee, in all of the Matty Smith actually had a negative strokes gained off the tee as well, but in 10 it was only him and Matty Smith that had a negative strokes gained off the tee.
Yeah, never been his strength. Let's be honest.
And doesn't hit it that far either, which is again, I think that Aronimink suited his game. In regards to I get that he might not be the straightest off the tee, but he's straight enough, and the greens the way they were and how difficult they were, that brings his short game prowess and putting prowess to the fore.
Definitely. Do you think it's time that Cam maybe got a driver fitting?
Well, who says he hasn't? So, I can put my hand up and say that I've had a driver fitting and I still hit a pretty mean snap hook.
Oh, I've had a driver fitting and I can't believe that they fit me with a door snake. There is that. But Cam, if you're listening, get yourself a driver fitting. It's a good idea. Yeah. Fun day out as well.
Yeah, look, for fun day out, I'm sure that Cam does have his driver fitted for him. I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't.
Got to ask the obvious questions. I mean, if we're in the press corps, how good would that be at the end of the round? Like going, okay, we'll just pass the Mr. Hinks from the Mr. Hinks Golf Show. Next question. Yeah, Cam, have you ever thought about getting a driver fitting?
First and last question from the press centre.
Yeah, how good would that be? I think the Pilgrims would enjoy that. It'd be pretty funny. We got to do that. Australian Open, here we come. Now, if anyone can get us a press pass, please reach out. We won't let you down. I promise.
I reckon one or two of our contacts may be able to sort that out for us, wouldn't they?
Might ask a few questions. That'd be quality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, President's Cup in, was it 2028?
Yeah.
At Kingston Heath.
Let's do it.
I'm fully expecting a press pass for the President's Cup.
Let's do it. Oh.
How good would that be?
And what we'll do beforehand is we'll get as many questions from the Pilgrims as they want us to ask. So get creative. Send your questions in. And we'll promise to ask them. We won't be invited back for the second day. So anyone else from the anti-live group that you want to talk about before we move on to a few other big names that probably need a discussion?
No, I think that's pretty much the bulk of them that are worth mentioning. I think. Joaquin Niemann, I think is he featured and he finished 1 under, so he had a reasonably good tournament. I mean, certainly from where he's been, and you just haven't heard of Joaquin. Well, he won the Australian Open a couple of years back, which was good, but certainly in the majors, haven't really heard that much for him. And the other one that probably needs an honourable mention is Martin Keimer. He had a couple of certainly a good first round and was there or thereabouts.
What about talking about your 1 under finishes, David Puig?
Yeah, I haven't heard. I know he won the Australian PGA last year, but haven't really heard too much about him. And certainly he doesn't feature in many of the majors. But he was there or thereabouts as well. I mean, shooting under par, top 20 finish.
I mean, other 1 unders, non-live related. Of course, we've got to mention Min Woo, our man from WA. He
looked good for a long time and just didn't quite get there in the last round. Over the
weekend. Yeah. But definitely respectable golf. Tied for 18th, so a top 20 finish in a major, nothing to be sneezed at. Padraig Harrington as well, winding back the clock.
Yeah.
Also in a tie for 18th.
Quality golfer.
That was pretty impressive.
He's actually got a good YouTube channel, Paddy.
He does.
I've watched a little bit of his YouTube channel and it's quite entertaining. I really rate what he's got to say.
Yeah, and some good instruction there as well. So it's good. Another name for you that I think we need to have a bit of a chat about, finished in a tied for 14th. I would have backed him in hands down at the halfway point, is Scottie Scheffler, but his putter really deserted him over the weekend.
Yeah, just lot of missed short putts. Just seemed to have zero confidence on the greens. I mean, even if he made half of those putts that he missed inside 5 feet, he would have won by a couple. I mean, it was just
un-Scheffler-like.
Yeah, and it sort of goes back to, the days before he moved to the claw. I mean, he did a lot of that when he just had the orthodox putting grip, and then he moved to the claw and seemed to eliminate that from his game. But the amount of short putts that he missed was actually quite shocking.
So you attribute that to the claw. I would actually attribute that more from the move from the blade putter to the mallet putter.
Well, it's probably a combination of both.
Which Rory was responsible for, gave him his spider for a bit of a practice, and he thought it was good. But yeah, Scheffler, that was a bit surprising. I really, really thought he was going to steam over the top of the field on the weekend, but it just didn't come to fruition. Another one for you, Andy Walker, tied for 10th, Justin Rose.
Yeah, Rosie, like, really good final round. He seemed to get out of the blocks really, really well, and looked pretty promising there for sort of midway through his round. He looked as though he was just going to charge over the top, but then just faded a bit.
I mean, what a career! Seriously.
Yeah, I'd love to see Rosie win another major. I think that he's got the game for it, always has had the game for it, and just a thoroughly, genuinely nice guy. And I think that, I mean, I was going to say he deserves it, but you usually don't get what you deserve in golf.
Matter.
So
Doesn't matter. But I would, if there's anyone really that I would love to see outside of the Aussies win another major, it would be Rosie. I think that he's a quality golfer and a quality human. 100%. I'd love to see him win a green jacket, to be honest. He's been so close so often. Really, there's two guys that you'd love to see win another major. They're cut from a similar cloth, J. Rose and A. Scott, I would say.
Yes.
And Scotty, for that matter, I believe has just been confirmed he's going to play in his 100th consecutive major coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how good is that? I think it's only Jack Nicklaus has played.
It's only Nicklaus.
Yeah. Now, what amazing company that is.
Yes.
To hold yourself in. Like, it's just, like, it's so good. 100 consecutive majors. I mean, that's like 25 years of majors consecutively. It's mind blowing. It really is.
It is. It's amazing. Good on you, Scotty. Which I guess takes us up to the pointier end of the leaderboard. Ludwig in a tie for 4th.
Yep.
You've had some strong views on Ludwig over some of our episodes.
Yeah, I think he's got the potential. However, I don't think he looks likely. To me, and it's just obviously, there's a lot of people that rate Ludwig, and I think he's a quality golfer, and I actually really like the guy. I hope he does get over the line and win at least 1 or 2 majors. But he just, I don't know, there's something missing. He's there and thereabouts, but there's something missing. And maybe it might be like a Phil Mickelson type story where he struggles early in his career, and then once he gets one, like, the floodgates open and all of a sudden he realizes how to win majors and he wins 5 or 6. I mean, who knows? He's got the game for it, but at the moment he just, and whether it's his driving, whether, he missed a few putts as well that he probably should have made over the last sort of round or two. And yeah, for me, at the moment, he just doesn't seem to. Yeah, there's just something missing.
Is he too laid back?
Well, I mean, you could say that about Cam Smith as well.
And I'd say he is too laid back.
You can't get too much more laid back than Cam Smith, right?
He is too laid back. All right, that's not a question.
I don't think laid back and tournament success. I don't think they're polar opposites. I think that in fact I think that being calm, and you look at him, I'm sure we'll talk about Aaron Rai at some stage, but like talking about super calm, that's exactly what he was. He was so level and so consistent throughout his round, and that's what I think Ludwig is. He's not laid back. I don't think he's too laid back. I just think he's very calm and he's on a very even keel emotionally, which I think is in his favour.
Okay. He was tied with Matty Schmidt, but also with a player who had a bit of a tear on Sunday. JT came through the field with 5 under on Sunday. Find himself in a tie for fourth, which was a great effort because, that locks him into all the majors for the next couple of years. So thoughts on JT?
Good to see JT having a good week. I think, and this is the same with Jordan Spieth as well. I would like to see them back competing and being up there, sniffing around, sort of having another major win. I think he's good for the game. I think he's got the personality. And certainly what he brings to Ryder Cup is phenomenal for the US side. I like what he brings to the game. So yeah, it's good to see him back on the horse, so to speak.
So let's talk Rambo. Came in second, tied for second with Alex Smalley, who was a bit of a bolter out of left field, to be perfectly honest. He's probably worth a chat too before we get on to Rambo, because Smalley, not a player I know a lot about, but I heard a couple of interviews with him, in particular on Saturday when he was, up at the top of the leaderboard, and had made comments along the lines of, I don't like the spotlight and I'm not comfortable. Yep. I'm not comfortable in, holding the overnight lead because, there's too much media pressure and scrutiny and expectation and these sorts of things. I thought it was interesting to say those types of remarks midway through a tournament.
Yep. Yeah. And look, he's, not wanting to be in the spotlight. I completely get that. That's sort of one thing that I've never really sort of gone towards. So yeah, being the guy who's there in the spotlight and everyone wants to talk to, there needs to be a adjustment, because from what I understand, and I actually read something, and it was only a story that I saw on socials. When he was in college, when he was a junior, his coach and he went to Duke University. His coach, when they were playing the inter-college matches, intentionally put him up against Scottie Scheffler, and Scottie Scheffler was a senior at the time, and the coach put him there because he believed that Alex Smalley could beat Scottie Scheffler, and he did, and it got them through to like the semis or the finals, or I can't remember the exact details, but what the coach said is that Alex Smalley can handle pressure, and he can handle that sort of big time, sort of coming down the stretch. So didn't surprise me that I read that, I think might have been around the third round 2 or 3, when he was starting to do really well. So it didn't surprise me that, he had a couple of sort of bad holes there in the last round, sort of same as sort of round 3. He had a couple of bad holes to start off with, but then sort of dug his heels in and found something and ended up sort of shooting 6 under and tied for second. So didn't surprise me after reading a couple of stories about him.
Yeah, good. He has been playing well on the tour in the lead up to this as well, so not surprising really to see him do that well. Probably more surprised to see the other person tied for second with him, which was Rambo, that we talked about briefly earlier. But I think, to be honest with you, it can only be good for the game to see someone like Jon Rahm back in contention in majors.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah, I love watching Rambo play. I think he's a massive asset for the game. It was disappointing when he went to live. I mean,
Yeah, really
I
was.
didn't think that that was his best move. Certainly when it comes to, and maybe his legacy is that he wants to set up his family sort of from a wealth perspective for generations, and that was his whole thing to go to live, and that's fair enough. Everyone's got their own, I guess, motives and what they want to achieve, but certainly from a golfing perspective, I think he has the potential to win probably another, 3, 4 majors, but I think he's done himself out of a couple by going to live, because I think he would have won more majors by now.
Yeah.
If he had stayed on the PGA Tour.
Well, he did leave when he was kind of at the top of his game, and then just hasn't been anywhere near it ever since, until really this tournament.
And you saw last year, he was in contention last year, and I think what happened last year was as a result of probably not being under the gun coming down the stretch in tournament golf, like 72-hole tournament golf for a couple of years. But it's good to see that he's back. He's back playing well and playing well in tournament golf and competing for majors. That can only be a good thing.
No, I do agree. We need to stop agreeing all the time. Another guy that we do need to talk about, he wears 2 gloves. He has iron covers on his clubs. He's, maybe not the biggest name going around. He's ranked, or was ranked, somewhere in the 40s.
Yeah, it was 43 or 44 or something before the start of the week.
But possibly also regarded as one of the nicest guys and the hardest workers on tour, and therefore it's very hard to feel anything other than a lot of happiness on his behalf to see him get over the line, is Aaron Rai.
Yep. Yeah, and what a quality human being. I watched his press conferences. I'm sure a lot of people did, and just what he had to say and how he said it, acknowledging the media when they ask good questions, just the humility, and in a world where bad behavior is validated in this day and age, to see a bit of humility and being humble, I think is just fantastic. And I'm super glad that he got across the line and won in the way that he did, in that he didn't just sneak over the line. Like he stamped his authority down the back 9 and won. I mean, that 70-foot putt that he
17.
held on 17 was just insane. Amazing.
That was insane. What I liked about that as well? What I liked about that in his press conference, and he was asked about that putt, and obviously, he was pretty happy with it, but he was very honest about the fact that his intention was lagging it up somewhere close and, trying to make sure of a 2-putt, and then was getting a bit excited at about 15 feet out, and then, of course, it rolled in, but at no point was he trying to overstate his intention on sinking that. I think, which, some people may have, who's to know. But I agree, he gave a huge amount of credit to his wife, gave a huge amount of credit to his parents, spoke a lot about the family values that had been instilled in him during his upbringing around respect for others, being a good person, being a hard worker. And the other thing, it would have been easily missed, but one of the things I actually liked the most in that interview, he was asked about what his plans were for the future and what goals he was now setting, and, i.e. how many majors do you want to win and Ryder Cups do you want to play in and those types of things. His answer was, I'm really looking forward to getting back on the range and practicing and continuing to work hard and seeing where my game takes me. And that's textbook, mate. Like that is that is the recipe. He loves the grind. He loves the hard yards. He loves the training paddock. He's not in it only for the glory of game day. And that, he might appear like an overnight success, but he's been an overnight success about 25 years in the making.
Yeah, and I've watched Aaron Rai play for a very long time, and he always seems to be one of those guys that just doesn't get flustered.
Mm.
He performs, has performed for a long time, and has actually beaten some historically beaten some decent golfers for his tournament wins at different stages. And yeah, I certainly wasn't thinking Aaron Rai at the start of the week, but yeah, I mean, what a story, and it just comes down to, I think, a great story about a guy who doesn't necessarily have, the most talent. He's not a Rory McIlroy. He's not a Adam Scott. He's not the prettiest golfer, a swing as I'm talking about.
Mm.
He's just. It's just hard work. It's just getting into the dirt and working hard and getting the best out of the talent that he's got. And it's a great story. And his wife again is a professional golfer, and they work as a team. Apparently, his dad gave away work when he was pretty young, and his mum basically was the income earner for the family, while his dad sort of spent time with Aaron, developing his skills and developing him into the golfer that he is. So just an incredible story, I think, of not just one guy winning a major, but the whole support system that he's got around him, and the importance of having family and having a partner that can lift you up to be the best that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. He also gave credit to Andy and Pierce, the guys from Me and My Golf, who have coached him since, I think he was saying since he was about 12, and become, more than coaches, but mentors and in some respects, brothers. And I think, like, for those guys, how good is that for their business? That's amazing. But, for anyone that doesn't look at too much Me and My Golf on YouTube, I would absolutely recommend you do it, because their channel, and it's an instruction channel, is one of the best. You can see where there's a lot of really good information going to Aaron. But I like the fact, I love the fact that he paid tribute to his whole support crew. Obviously, this is a huge moment for everyone in that circle to have been involved in the development of now a major winner, and for his parents, of course. You can only imagine, with all that sacrifice that you just talked about, finally having the opportunity to see that come to fruition is amazing. So good on the Rai family. It was awesome.
And the other interesting thing that he talked about, which is sort of some of the things that we've talked about, and when we talked about sort of last week, we were talking about getting out in the golf course and playing the shorter course to learn how to score. So he was talking about that as a child. He played a modified golf course that his father basically mapped out. And his dad wanted him to always be capable of breaking par. So he played on golf courses that were, age and distance appropriate, where he could learn how to score. And so he grew up learning how to break par, how to have good scores, and how to score under pressure. And I think that to me is a stroke of genius. On his dad's behalf, to be able to get Aaron into that mindset from a very early age, and be comfortable in that mindset and in that environment of breaking par, I think is brilliant.
It's definitely worked. So it was awesome. So it was really good to see a different name atop the leaderboard. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on his career as it goes. One slight negative, though, I've got to say, with Aaron Rai winning a major, which has already started to pose a bit of a problem as a left-handed golfer. The sale of right-handed gloves has gone through the roof, making it more difficult for us left-handers to get our stock. So, that's a bit of a problem. So anyway, we'll live with that. But I, for one, will be transferring now to gloves on both hands and iron covers from now on.
Good luck with that.
Or I won't.
No.
As another option. I have worn 2 gloves, wet weather gloves, in the rain. It feels super weird.
Yeah. No, I did that a very long time ago, and quickly got rid of the glove on the right hand and just wore the wet weather glove on the left hand. And
it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, not sure I could ever get used to wearing 2 gloves, but
hey, if you've always done it, then probably you can't get used to not doing it. So
yeah, exactly.
Good luck to him. So quite a lot in all of that. Andy Walker, what other words of wisdom have you got about the PGA Championship?
Look, I think it's worthwhile just going through some strokes gained analysis. I was looking at the strokes gained and the complete strokes gained tee to green, which is the combination of the off the tee and approach play. And you've got to go down to number, where was it? A tie for 35 before you get to a negative strokes gained tee to green, which I thought is really interesting. So it was very, very much a ball striker's golf course, as we've discussed. But it's also very consistent with other majors as well, in that those guys that are the best ball strikers seem to be at the top of the leaderboard. Whereas if you look at strokes gained putting, the first negative strokes gained putting was Ludwig Oberg, coming a tie for 4th. So again, just proves that you can putt poorly and still finish up the leaderboard, but you can't really hit the ball poorly and finish up the leaderboard. So I think that's a big win for ball striking. And yes, you need both to win. And you look at, Aaron Rai had a slight negative strokes gained with around the green. It was minus 0.03 strokes gained around the green. So, but apart from that, it was well in the positive, and strokes gained total 3.62, which was actually 0.75 of a shot ahead of anyone else in the field. So yeah, across the board, he was far and away the best golfer. But I probably shouldn't be surprised at this point, given it's happened so often.
Yeah.
But I always think it's a really interesting analysis around strokes gained and what that data shows around the guys that did well and those that didn't. But in saying that, I with strokes gained off the tee, Aaron Rai was only a positive 0.2. And I don't think that really shows how well he hit the ball off the tee. And I think a lot of that has to do with distance off the tee, and that he wasn't actually hitting it a long way. Whereas you look at someone, say, Rory McIlroy. Now, we haven't talked about Rory, but Rory was positive 0.89 off the tee, and yet he was wild off the tee. He didn't hit many fairways at all, but he had a better strokes gained off the tee than what Aaron Rai did. And you've got to, I think, certainly when you're playing a golf course like Aronimink, you've got to take strategy into consideration, and that's where strokes gained data is quite limited.
True. It doesn't really give you the full picture when it comes to that, because it is ostensibly converting distance into shots.
Yes.
With a bit of, impact of lie and obviously hazards and being blocked by trees and any of those sorts of things. But, predominantly speaking, it's going to reward a longer drive in the rough than a shorter drive in the fairway. And then it, comes down to how long's the rough? What's the lie like? Can you spin it? And all of those issues. But, I thought, the numbers speak for themselves in terms of the scoreboard. You talk about Aaron Rai being 0.75 shots better than the field. Well, that equates to his 3-shot margin over 4 days.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, mathematically, it's true. If nothing else, which is good.
Yep. So yeah, that pretty much covers what I had on my list. Do you have any other comments or talking points?
My final comment is that you, for those of you pilgrims that have been listening to the last few episodes, would have heard that there's been some original songs closing out the show. We have been on a songwriting spree, Andy Walker and myself. It's been very exciting, a lot of fun with our good friends from Suno.com. So we've got another freshie for you tonight, and I think it's fitting, and I think we'd probably offer this one up as tribute to Aaron Rye's win in the PGA Championship, to be perfectly honest. So as we get ready...
Unbeknownst to the pilgrims, we did actually throw it out there a little bit earlier in the episode, if it's the one I'm thinking about.
It sure is. It's what they call foreshadowing, Andy Walker. So as we strap ourselves in to listen to a little bit more original music from what's shaping up to become the first and greatest golf rock album ever written, any advice for the pilgrims, Andy Walker?
Rock out, pilgrims.
Nice.
They called him the bomber, big grin, white shoes. He fed the driver fire, then watched it cut loose. Crowd in the ropes, girls at the rail. He'd send it to heaven and never hit the trail. Then there showed Gamer, quiet, tucked away. Small frame, sharp eyes, kept the bullies at bay. He read every slope like a map in his mind. A little bit crooked, a whole lot of grind. The bomber on the sky, the whole town knew his name. Short Gamer kept his head down, played that patient game. One had the muscle, one had the nerve, and nobody saw him taking what he deserved. The bomber, he flies it high. Short gamer, he's the truth by the green. The bomber, can't buy that shine. Short gamer, now he steals the same. Championship Sunday, hot grass, mean sun. The bomber came swaggering, said the job was done. But the short man chipped one, dead to the cup, then sank a cruel little putt, and the whole place erupted. The bomber swung hard, but the fairway ran thin. Short Gamer stayed patient and let the war begin. One tap, one red, one cold-blooded roll. He took every loose inch and he took control. The bomber lost the sky right there in front of fame. Short Gamer kept his balance while the big man burned in flame. One had the thunder, one had the will, and all that laughing went quiet still. The bomber, he flies it high. Short gamer, he's the truth by the green. The bomber, can't buy that shine. Short gamer, now he steals the same. At the final hole, he let it hang, a little soft cut, then a perfect bang. The crowd went wild like a fence line storm, and the man they forgot was the man reborn. The bomber, he flies it high. Short gamer, he's the truth by the green. The bomber, can't buy that shine. Short gamer, now he steals the same. out slow with the trophy, held her hand in his, and the whole world knelt. The bomber watched from the edge of the lane. Short gamer smiled and took the name.